Since I started out my career as a web designer in 2005, the time I had worked as an early employee at Facebook was really the only time I had worked out of an office for an extended period of time. Since then, I've switched careers a few times from the comfort of a desk chair just like this one. It wasn't until I started working at Twitch in 2014 that the idea of a home studio crept into my head, and my setups went from web designer minimal to, well, what you see behind me. We bought our first house, this place, in 2019, and I started working on this room from the moment we moved in. After you've watched this, let me know if you'd be interested in hearing about some of the previous iterations of this setup. I know a lot of you have been following me for years, and you've been waiting for a video like this, so I won't keep you waiting. The studio was always meant to serve a purpose of being my primary content creation area, as well as my home office, while fitting the level of quality that I desired out of anything I either streamed or recorded. I never wanted the room to sway too far in one direction or another. For example, I've seen a lot of YouTuber studios out there be purpose-built for creating content. And so the space they create isn't exactly livable outside of that. Like, that couch behind me is simply an amazing place to nap. The vibe of the room itself is clean, cool, and collectible. I'm 38 years old and I'm a huge nerd. So when I got the chance to design this room, I wanted to include all of the items that brought me joy strewn all over the room. A Captain America shield, lightsabers from Galaxy's Edge, my small collection of Final Fantasy XIV merchandise, Destiny 2 raid jackets from the World First races I've completed. Anything that brings me joy, I've put in this room, and I'm better for it. All the LED lights you see here are LIFX lights. I'm still not 100% on them, but switching ecosystems would be hideously expensive at this point. As to why I went LIFX, I wanted one button control of all the lights in this room. They have an API that I can use with Home Assistant, which I can then control from my Stream Deck. Now, if only I could get these aperture lights to be controlled by the Stream Deck, I'd be golden. Before I go on, though, I really have to shout out the Twitch communities out there for making me feel more at home amongst my own things, especially on camera. Silicon Valley and the greater web design community historically low-key shunned fandom, unless you were a fan of Blue Bottle Coffee. Probably one of my favorite parts of this room is the shelf behind me. Not this shelf, but that shelf. Because it's not just a shelf, it's a closet. Inside it is a few IKEA pegboards and this IKEA butcher block tabletop. This area's main use will be for auxiliary footage like B-roll and the like. Hopefully I can keep this clean because this entire surface was unusable up until a few weeks ago. The theme of my desk is the same it has been for a long time now, as everything on this desk needs to be able to be used while sitting or standing. What you see right now is actually a major change I made over the last few months. And while I absolutely love multi-monitor setups, and I had as many as 4 earlier this year, something about it always bothered me. I mean, I like having my primary screen, the thing I'm focusing on, right in front of me. And I run a Mac and a PC. So with a multi-monitor, multi-system setup, to have that middle monitor, I always had to choose between the Mac or the PC to be right in front of me. After being highly inspired by Linus Sebastian of Linus Tech Tips fame, and his use of the LG CX TV as a desktop display, and the many videos that Caleb Pike of DSLR Video Shooter has done on ultimate content creation desks, the light bulb lit up. I'd split my concerns into 2 separate areas of an L desk, in this case, an uplift L-shaped standing desk. Work would be to my left, and gaming would be to my right. And this camera would sit in the middle to capture either. I've loved this setup as it's worked for me so well mentally. I'd much rather shift in my chair to change context, rather than have technology to try and do that for me, and ultimately be pretty finicky at times. What you're seeing right now is being recorded on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. My previous main camera was a Sony a7 III, which I absolutely loved, but the autofocus got really moody on that thing after a couple of years, so I decided to try something different. Maybe if I do enough of these, I won't have to change my gear every time I want to try something new out. For lens, I'm using a 14mm t3.1 Rokinon Cine DSX lens because I've loved Cine lenses from the moment I rented a Canon one for a side project, and that's why most of my videos will be preceded by the word overkill. This whole thing is mounted on a tripod head that I stole off a Manfrotto tripod that I rarely used. And I love this because I can just easily go from one context to another while streaming, as long as my pan arm cooperates. Below all that is my Stream Deck, which is powered by Bitfocus Companion. It's not a program for beginners, but it's immensely powerful, and I've barely scratched the surface of what I want to do with this thing, so get subscribed if you want to follow my journey with that. To my left is my work setup, a 14-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro, a Pro XDR display that'll probably pay off once I start getting a salary at Altair, and a metric ton of Thunderbolt 3 hubs from CalDigit and Sonnet Technologies. To my right is a brand new Black Friday bought 48-inch LG C1. Probably the best TV I've ever owned. Below that lies a Samsung Q850A soundbar, which wasn't my first choice, but most higher end soundbars these days are not meant for TVs less than 55 inches. Next to the couch just out of frame is my rack. It's a nice rack. Please compliment my rack. The rack itself is from Echo Gear, and I've honestly been meaning to get a taller one. Hell, I'd go with a cabinet if I could, I just don't have the clearance with a couch there. Starting at the top is my gaming PC in a Silverstone GD10 case. So you might think this is odd, but below that is where I put my Blackmagic ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. So why the hell would I put this out of reach? 2 reasons. I have 5 cats that love warm things. And I can control everything through my Stream Deck anyway, so that's just a glorified switcher. That said, I love hardware switchers, which is why I don't necessarily use OBS for all of that. I could simplify things by getting one of Blackmagic's television grade switchers, but the older versions either don't support 1080p signals or they don't have enough HDMI ports. Below that is my Art Voice channel preamp, which I bought years ago on the recommendation of a good streamer friend of mine. That powers my main microphone, which is a Sennheiser MKH50 P48. Below that is a Biamp Nexia VC, which is just plain sorcery. My CTO at Altair, Cody, recommended this to me, and I have not worn headphones while streaming since. No feedback in my mic either. I really want to do a video on this thing, but in short, it does active noise cancellation using the audio signals from the rest of my setup. And you can grab one on eBay for $40. It is amazing. Did I miss anything? I'm being lit by an Aperture 120D Mark II using an Aperture Light Dome 2, which is mounted to a Manfrotto auto pole, which are great except for the marks it leaves on your ceiling. Once I finally understood how to properly use this thing, shout out once again to Caleb Pike's multitude of content on the subject, I can never go back to smaller lights. So there's a quick overview of my office and what lives in it. I'm sure there are other things I forgot, even though I made sure to script a lot of this. In the future, I want to get into some of the more specific aspects of why I do what I do. And if any of my past attempts at doing YouTube are any indication, I could use all the encouragement I could get. Also, this room changes at the very least once every few months, so I'll want to share those changes with you as well. As I have no store affiliations of any type, there won't be links below. Instead, I'd rather you search for these items using the affiliate links of your favorite content creator. Throw some support their way. Maybe this will change in the future. Who knows? I know this was a long time coming for a lot of my friends out there, but I really hoped you enjoyed it. It's all a bit overkill, but I love it. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful new year. And yeah, that's all I got. See ya.